Thank you. This is Lorianne Cerullo, the president of the WMGA. We hope you enjoyed that intermission with the highlight videos of our tournaments. I now have the honor to introduce our keynote speaker. Dottie Pepper is both a legend and legendary. She was on the tour from 1988 to 2004, accumulating 28 professional wins, including 17 LPGA Tour titles. She played in the Solheim Cup 6 times. In 2005, she began work as a golf commentator and is currently with CBS and just came back from the Masters. We are thrilled to have her with us, and we have to give special thanks to Ozzy and Kiki in help making this happen. Now, Ozzy and Kiki are Valerie DePiro's Samoyeds, and Dottie, a big dog fan, bonded together. Dottie will soon be a dog mom to little Rupert, a miniature Schnauzer who in early December she will be with him. So our moderator panel includes not only Valerie, Alexis Hios, but of course, Ozzy, Kiki, and Rupert, as they all ask Dottie her thoughts and insights in a segment we call Pepper's Perspective. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Valerie and Alexis and the legendary Dottie Pepper. Welcome, Dottie. Oh, get her. Unmute her.
There we go.
There you go.
I ask them to do that at CBS all the time and they just shut me off.
Hey, Dottie.
Hi, Val. Wow, that was quite the intro. We got all the four paw people.
So welcome. Thanks, Lorianne, and welcome, Dottie. We've put Ozzy, Kiki, and Rupert on mute, so just be myself and Alexis, doing this little fireside chat, so to speak. So, Alexis, say
hi, everyone, and welcome, Dottie Pepper. It's so great to chat with you today.
Nice to see all of you.
So, Dottie, as you can imagine, those of us on the call want to ask a lot of questions, but if people that are on the call want to ask questions, we're going to ask them to put it into the chat function, and we're going to try to monitor it. So Alexis and I are going to do that, but we're going to try to keep you occupied. So as you can imagine, everybody's interested in hearing about the week at the Masters, as well as your 11 weeks in the PGA Tour bubble. Obviously, what were the sights and sounds of the Masters, and the smells probably were even different. So, I'll leave it there to start.
Well, I can tell you this: the pimento cheese sandwich still smelled bad, for starters, but they did still have them around, and of the few people that were on the golf course, the club did such an amazing job of taking care of everyone, to the point that there were 3 spots on the golf course where you could just go get whatever you wanted. And it was the traditional offering from the egg salad to the chicken sandwich to all of the legendary sort of offerings there. And they were just trying to help everybody get through the day. And days that turned into nights, and days that turned into nights, and nights turned into days because of the rain delays. But I was anticipating there would be no noise at all, and very trying to hide behind cameramen to stay out of the wide shots and trying to keep a clean telecast. And it really wasn't that way, because there were rules officials on the golf course. There were some Masters members. There were a limited number of guests that the Masters brought in. Some that were PGA Tour higher ups. There were, oh my gosh, a few. I think everybody had 2 family members that were in the field. So it wasn't as desolate. It wasn't as quiet. Certainly there weren't the roars that you we all remember, and some that you can almost identify where they came from and who made them. But it wasn't nearly as quiet as I thought it was going to be. And then the drone coverage, in my opinion, was the biggest add to all that, because we never really got to see Augusta National from high above. and see some of the big elevation changes that if you've been there, that you understand because you have shin splints at the end of the day. It's a pretty marvelous place, even with no fans.
You know, it's interesting because as a player, you know, visual cues, right? You know, trees kind of play with your mind and play with your depth perception. And
Yeah.
I'm sure at Augusta National, the crowds and the stands. And I heard like Tiger a couple times, like, you know, gee, where did that go? Or where is that? I mean, did it affect players? You know, obviously they hear the roar and they know it lands close to the hole, but
That definitely did, because there are so many uphill and downhill shots at Augusta National where you're just not sure where exactly it ends up. And I did hear a lot of players just sort of waiting to see if there were six people around the green that gave up some sort of applause. The best way I can describe it, coming up 18 with Dustin Johnson, is it felt like an NCAA championship. There was just about that many people around the green. So it was not without noise, but it wasn't the big crescendo that you get toward the end of a major championship. Not that we know of any. I mean, that we've become accustomed to.
right. You know, that you alluded to, how can we never actually see you walking the fairways?
My best friend's Casper, the friendly ghost. They were really looking to keep, I tried really hard just to be somewhat invisible. And I think I did an okay job, which meant I had to be in pretty good shape to get in there and get my information and get the heck out, because it's not only me. I have a wonderful spotter who's been with me from day one since I started at CBS in 2016 by the name of Wayne Richardson from Nashville. So Wayne was in there getting yardages and getting clubs as best he could. And I was up ahead and literally hiding behind trees, behind camera operators. If I could duck behind someone who was a guest out there or a rules official, anything that would sort of kind of, you try not to talk in the golf whisper. So it was everything to make it normal, so it would come across to the viewers that way. So yeah, we got in and got out pretty well.
That's awesome. So how many miles did you walk? Because I saw you, I watched like 100 hours and you were walking the whole time.
I did pretty much walk the whole time. I know Wayne told me that he walked on Friday 19,000 steps. So because I had to go back further to the tees and just zigzagging across trying to stay out of cameras, I'm betting I was about 25,000 a day.
So on hole 16, which is obviously one of those last finishing holes that everyone gets excited about, which is so weird to see without patrons this year and people around it, especially during the practice rounds when everyone does the skipping of the ball across the pond. Have you ever gotten the opportunity to try to skip the ball across the pond?
Wait. Do I know your name from somewhere?
Me? Alexis?
Okay. Alexis,
oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think your name's on that trophy that I won a couple of times in New York.
Yes.
Don't be shy now.
Yes.
I think you have some explaining to do.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed when I won the New York State Junior Girls was I took the trophy and took one look at it, and I'm in the car with my mom and I see your name and I'm like, this is so cool. Dottie Pepper and I are on the same trophy.
But where did you win?
I won at Skinny Atlas Country Club.
Outside Syracuse. Okay.
Yeah. It was a very exciting day because I had no idea what I was shooting that day. Finished on the 18th hole and people started congratulating me and I looked around. I'm like, what is going on? Why are you congratulating me? Yeah. So, but Betty Dealey.
Dealey. We were all Betty's girls.
I loved Betty Dealey. She was a wonderful woman.
So for those who don't know who Betty was, she sort of shepherded everything in New York State about women's and girls golf, and she loved her junior girls.
Oh yeah.
And kept in contact, and we just all became known as Betty's girls.
Yeah.
So anyway, to your question about 16,
Yes.
I was in a hard fought match, boys versus girls, when we got to 16. Last time I played Augusta National, so no skipping because we had to win the match. But I was really intrigued by what we brought to the show on CBS because of the fly cam. That's what you normally see in NFL games and some college games. So it gave a bigger perspective of that hillside where there's normally so many people that you couldn't put that in there. So it gave a kind of a nice, different view. But I don't know. The thing that I was really surprised about 16 was they chose a back right hole location. And
Yeah, that the last day, yeah.
all up in arms on the last day. Like, wait a minute, it's not back left. So I think some of the things I'd been reading about earlier in the week was that they were going to try to do some different things because it's a different Masters. And that was one of those things that was a little bit different. But it was back there in that corner where Nicklaus holed that huge putt. Caddy got right in the way of the camera shot when he won against Miller and Weiskopf in 75. So it had been there at some point. It's just not in recent memory.
Yeah. So how much prep work do you do pre-round? And does your husband David ever help you with any history of the course or not just the Masters? Like what is your pre-round reporting routine?
So it was different this year because I wasn't responsible for just 2 holes or 2 or 3 holes being in a tower. I was on the ground. So it became more reactionary prep work this year rather than weeks leading in where I had to be versed on 2 holes, significant points that had happened at those holes. So for example, when I used to be at 13 in 2005, important to know that Tiger putted off the green into the what's now known as a penalty area. Sorry, old school hazard. Tributary of Rays Creek if you really want to get sticky about it. But he putted off the green into the water and then went on to make bogey and get into the playoff with Chris DeMarco. So those are the sort of historical perspective things that I didn't necessarily have to know about each hole this year. There were a couple I threw in just because I'm a geek about Augusta. But my prep was really more about getting my body in shape to do what I had to do every day because it was going to be those number of steps. And it wasn't just me. It's a 13-pound monitor and battery combination that I have to haul around as well on kind of a binocular harness. So it was a lot of work because I knew this was coming. I knew the whole summer was going to be difficult, but I knew this was coming and it was probably the most difficult golf course that we would have walked all year long. Probably Muirfield Village is in that sort of neighborhood, but knowing that it was going to be the first time to do something as special as this, I knew I needed to do it right. So it was down to about 9 workouts a week. There were 2 double days.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And with a Pilates instructor, and we did a lot of stuff with cardio, and I felt great there. And it's a good thing because, you know, they turned into full and a half days because of the rain delay. Something I had not thought about. I usually pride myself on looking ahead and thinking about that sort of thing. But I will tell you, Thursday afternoon, I was walking up number 8, which is, I think, the steepest really. And I heard in my ear that we had to be back in position to be on the air at 7:30 the next morning. I was like, oh my God. Hadn't even thought about it. So quick turnaround. But it was more focusing on the groups you will likely have. I was assigned Dustin and that group to start on Thursday. And then, of course, Mother Nature got in the way. My backup group was Tiger if weather interrupted. So I was prepared to go with both groups. And as it turned out, it was a good thing.
Do you ever take notes on the course as if it were like a pre-round? Like if you're specifically on a hole, I know when we viewers are watching, we're fascinated by how you all know the exact breaks of the green and where to position the ball. Do you take notes on the course as if you're playing the golf course?
I talk about golf. I walk golf. I prepare for golf exactly as I played. And give me 2 seconds. I'll grab my book. Hold on. So for example, let's see if I can hold it up. This is just the 8th hole, and you can see where I've highlighted. So this is a par 5, so it would have actually 2 pages, but I've highlighted layups, key points in the golf course, key covers off bunkers, and it's just it's kind of your Bible for the week. What mounds are going to repel, which mounds might help balls get close. And I mean, if I ever lost this, I'd be toast. But I was really fortunate that there were a couple of things about the golf course, even though I'd played it before and been around so many times, things that I wanted some clarification about. And they put me up in contact with the 2 PGA professionals there. And the boys literally in a 2-hour span, they took a yardage book and they wrote down everything they knew when they went out and played. So I wanted it from a player's perspective, not just from, oh, this plays 3 yards up or that plays 5 yards down. I wanted like clubs and things that they've seen over and over and over again. So it kind of made it more real for everybody who's watching, people maybe who have played there before, and it baffled them because there are so many things about that place that do baffle you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I prepare as a player, and you prepare, you probably over prepare, but better that than caught on the other side.
That's for sure. Never want to be underprepared for a golf tournament. When following Dustin's group, you have to know certain things about his game. I mean, obviously he's been playing long enough, especially in Tiger as well, that most people, I mean, I think we see the outside from as a viewer's perspective, but you as a commentator, are there certain things that you have to know about these players that will help to give us a taste of what it's like to be them or be the player on the course?
Yeah, I think I start, if I have an opportunity early on, whether it's in a practice round or on the golf course, yeah, just get the caddy when they're lagging behind or they're running ahead and ask them if there's any new toys in the bag is my standard line. And oftentimes they will have changed, or they'll have a regrind on a wedge, or in Dustin's case, when we were at the Northern Trust tournament, which was middle of August, I asked Austin when I got there on Saturday, we were walking up the 7th hole, and I said, hey, any new toys in the bag? And he said, yeah, actually we're carrying a 7-wood. So, I mean, that was, that's something that needs to get on the air when they actually, if they're going to pull that club. So, and it's also something that my spotter and I need to come up with a new signal for, because not a lot of PGA Tour players have a 7-wood in the bag. So
that's true.
We're going to try to keep that information straight.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and send it back.
Nice knowing that he plays a 7-wood, so that all of us kind of feel a little bit better now.
Exactly.
He played it quite a bit, actually, right? I mean, he had a lot.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I think Sunday on 80 had 260 uphill to the front, and that was the club he hit. And everybody thinks of him as a left to right player now, but he turned that baby over from right to left, and it found the right front quadrant of the green.
Right.
So one of the things so the Masters really, because it's in April, the chance of like overseeding, they overseed for the winter. How much do you think, the course clearly played softer, and after like the first 2 days when the players had, pretty low scores, that the greens didn't get, sped up, and the golf course, continued to kind of be that wet course. How much do you think, like, kind of the timing, the overseeding and things, did that play into it? And also, what's organic matter? Is that like, I mean, I personally call that a mud ball.
I heard that was trending on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I heard that was trending. And I've also heard that the rules staff, the PGA Tour rules staff, was in their trailer because they started coming off the golf course and they lost it because just, I guess you're not supposed to really talk about mud balls. Let the players talk about those. So I had to come up with something. And that was as close as I could come to mud ball without having it all over my face. That's very funny.
Yeah.
So they actually overseeded a little bit earlier. They stripped the golf course down, as typically places do. overseeded. So many people also know that you have to have it extremely wet for the to start to germinate and take over. They did get lucky that they missed a couple of hurricanes that were working their way up the East Coast. And the golf course was, when I walked it for the first time Monday afternoon, you were starting to hear balls hit on the green, and there was a sheen about them. It was hot. And the same thing was Tuesday and even into Wednesday. And then Mother Nature said, that's enough. And we got 3/4 of an inch of rain by the time they resumed play after the brief delay on Thursday. So from there, it was really hard to recover. And it was just playing the golf course as it was. The sub air was on, but the humidity levels were still really high. And Mother Nature, once again, goes undefeated.
So, one thing's just curious, and you may not be able to answer this. If it was a PGA Tour event, you think they would have let them play Lift, Clean, and Place?
I'm not sure. I'm
just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of them weren't as bad as the players made it out to be. I can promise you that.
Okay, yeah, because right, it's John Rahm, like that was the whole reason Saturday, and
right.
and I was just curious because sometimes maybe they'll play Lift, Clean, and Place, but at the Masters no.
And I think the thing to remember is that PGA Tour doesn't have any major championships, and the majors are the majors, and they do set themselves apart, and maybe that's one of the reasons, one of the ways that they do.
Right.
So what has it been like living in this COVID bubble, but traveling around and being at all these events?
To me, it hasn't been that difficult. I mean, look, we got locked down pretty quickly up here in the Northeast, especially in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So those changes weren't that crazy. I think it was harder on our talent, on our techs, on everybody who was coming from states that were much more open. But the CBS policy was that no dining out. DoorDash and Grubhub became really good friends. Stopping. We had 2 bubbles. We had a red bubble and a blue bubble, and the red ones were folks that were working inside the production trucks. And I was in the blue bubble, those that were working outside. And the folks that were in the red bubble really weren't even allowed to go to a grocery store. It was really hard on them.
Wow.
That's hard if you're living on the road and you can't go to a grocery store. So for me, it wasn't nearly as difficult. It was a Whole Foods and find a local restaurant that would deliver. And it worked out fine. The only thing I did do a lot more this year was drive. And after the first 4 weeks, it became pretty apparent that airline schedules weren't letting up any. It wasn't because I was afraid to fly. I just didn't want to get stuck in an airport because summer thunderstorms weren't going to stop, interrupting what air travel there was. And there weren't that many flights. I mean, my primary airport is Albany, and although we're the state capital, it's a pretty small airport. So there just weren't as many flights. So it was easier for me to just pack up and kind of take a flashback to 1987 and 1988 when I was just getting started, and just get on the road and go do what you do. And I saw friends and I saw family, and I got in and out of the bubble per CBS protocol. And at the same time, my husband, David, did the same thing. Between the two of us, we drove nearly 18,000 miles this summer.
I think I drove 600.
No tickets, no COVID, no crashes. I think to us, it proved that you could get into a safe space and still live life.
That's for sure. And I think that's exactly what everyone needs right now, is the positivity of knowing that we can still live life normally.
You can still live life normally. I think you have to be a little more organized. The thing I found most helpful was that just remember that most things that we think we can do quickly are going to take a little more time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of give yourself some margins, Alexis, we found that it really helped.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think
So, yeah, so how many COVID tests did you take? I mean, did you have to take, did you follow the same protocols like the players? Like, like what were they, like Monday and Wednesdays, or they were when before they got on a plane, or?
Right. So theirs were actually, their testing was more, it depended on that bubble that you were within CBS. If you were working outside, working inside, it was a little bit different.
Got it.
Our on-site protocols were actually much more stringent than the PGA Tour, because we weren't allowed to go out to dinner. And I think early on, a lot of players did go. And when that first little hot roll came through after Hilton Head and into Hartford and maybe Detroit, I think players started to rein it back. So I've been tested now 7 times, and 3 of them were in the last 11 days and just in an effort to come home. So I was tested as soon as I landed in Augusta, tested Sunday morning before I went to work, and then tested again when I got home. And I did one here at the Saratoga Hospital yesterday morning, and within an hour before we signed on, the negative came back. So woohoo, here I am. I will say that early on, the PCR test, which is the one that is the partial lobotomy, that swab was really wide when we started out in June, and they've made that thing a lot smaller, so it's not nearly as uncomfortable as
they've perfected it.
Well, I'm not going to use that word, Val, but fine-tuned it a little bit.
So, Dottie, what do you believe, or what was the key that made you such a successful golfer? We know you've had 17 tour wins, 2 majors, been on the Solheim Cup 6 times, which, I personally am trying to play on the LPGA, and to hear that, that's just like a dream. What helped you get to that point?
Alexis, I think you set a goal and you just don't give up. You just stay at it. And I just think grit and grind are the 2 biggest things that anybody can do, no matter if they're on a golf course or in a boardroom or working at their job. It's a lot of grit and grind, and find an attitude that lets you do it in a happy way. I may have been grumpy as a player, but I loved what I did. and I still get ticked off when we make mistakes in telecasts, but I love what I do. And I feel like I've been super blessed, but just never, ever back down, and don't ever give up.
That's great advice. I mean, that's definitely something I think we all need to hear, whether that be for your stroke play championship, your club championship, just a Saturday afternoon. That is definitely something that I think everyone needs to hear at this moment in time.
Yeah, and I think too, we're going to get through this. I know we are, but attitude's a really big part of it.
That's for sure. So what do you think of the state of women's golf and where it's going in the future? I know this year's been a little bit different with COVID and, guidelines as to what can and can't be done, both for LPGA and for amateur golfers. Where do you think the women's golf world is going?
Well, I would say women's golf was sort of the leader going into all of this, because it impacted them much more than any other tour association before anybody knew what the heck COVID-19 was.
Right,
Because,
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
The beginning of their season was overseas, right?
And everybody said, whatever, maybe they're just overreacting. No, Mike Wan knew what COVID-19 was before we all knew what COVID-19 was. And in many ways, he became sort of a lighthouse for people to look at, because the LPGA knew about it. They had to completely reformat their business plan. And on top of that, when they were going to start back up in Michigan, they had this 100-year flood. So it seemed like everywhere the LPGA was going, it was sort of capsizing. And they figured out a way to reset it and pivot. And I think they've done a remarkable job. And it also, that's a hard thing to do. when you don't have the resources that the PGA Tour champions, all of these associations do, and they figured it out, and they figured out how to do it safely, and they figured out how to go overseas safely. They had a lot of help from the RNA to get the Women's Open over there on, and then the Women's Scottish as well. But they really did a great job of just figuring it out. And I want people to remember too that the LPGA was in a pretty healthy position financially when this happened. And the one statement that Mike Wan said, that 10 years of saving and moving forward was wiped out in about 10 weeks. And they have still gone forward, and they're now in a new market this week, a new old market in Tampa. LPGA hasn't been in Tampa, in that whole area, since 1989, and they're back there at a site where they bid for that event before the golf course was even finished. So I still think, through all the stuff the LPGA's gone through, they're going to have the Women's Open, the USGA, I get it, but they're going to have a Women's Open next year. I think the LPGA has done a remarkable job of staying afloat and actually improving. Talk about grit and grace through all of this. They're going to play that tournament this week down in Tampa, and I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, it's cool that they're able to pull it off.
Well, and the Symetra Tour events too. They figured out a way to have that happen. So they put everybody's status on hold, but they still had competitive opportunities for everybody. And that's really what you all did too. I mean, the percentage of events that you all managed to hold was remarkable. I mean, that's crazy. And you did it safely.
I mean, golf's all we got right now, right?
Pretty much. So the next question is, so I'm kind of curious to maybe throw this out and people start talking about this. I had a conversation with Seth Waugh last week, the CEO of the PGA. And I said, this is sort of like the second chance that golf has been given after we had the Tiger thing, and we kind of screwed it up. I mean, golf should have been so cool with Tiger, and it was just kind of lukewarm. The game of golf came full circle during this pandemic, continuing in this pandemic. We all know the numbers are up, but let's not make it a one-off. How do we get people to continue to understand and participate in what we know is just so freaking great?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, here you have a captive audience, right? Like, know your customer and how, they got here and why are they here and how can you keep them?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think our gift to the game is, how do we take what we've learned from this and really move it forward to the next generation?
For sure. Yeah. Have you learned anything about golf as an announcer that you wish you knew as a player?
Yeah. That you don't have to be perfect to win. Oh my God, do we see a lot of bad golf, and then they hold $1 million trophy. Really, it's so true. Lee Trevino, when he dabbled in television for NBC for a while, and it was the one thing. And I remember him saying that, someone asked him that question, and I thought, yeah, right, all right. But he is so right. You see a lot of really bad golf that turns out winning golf tournaments.
I think the Tigers 10 on the right. What was it, on 12 was a nice little, oh, he's human.
Yes, and John Rahm on 8.
On 8, right.
Saturday. It made the ball feel just a little bit better, didn't it?
Oh, yes. Makes that bad round seem actually pretty good after watching that one.
Put Tiger's round in perspective. The guy made a 10 on a par 3 and he shot 76.
It was unbelievable. Absolutely right. Unbelievable. Talk about a turnaround.
You bet.
Well, it just we never quit, right?
Never quit.
Never quit.
And it doesn't matter if you're fighting through and you make the 5-footer on the last hole to break 90 and you hadn't shot 90 in however long. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let yourself down.
For sure.
So what do you think about so what is it? Annika and Henrik Stenson were going to do like a joint.
Yeah.
Right. They were going to do that PGA. Was it the European Tour?
Mm-hmm.
LPGA. They had it, or was it that? I guess because of COVID, that didn't.
Right. So this idea has been floating around for a while. So
forever, right?
Yeah. The Jcpenney Classic was one of my favorites, and I didn't tell my my partner in 1992, Dan Forsman, when we won that. But I actually needed to win the golf tournament to not have to take money out on my house that I paid cash for to pay my tax bill. In the fourth quarter, and we needed to win the golf tournament. And at that point, and it might still have been, it was the biggest paycheck I made on tour. So yeah, I paid for my house in cash, and then I didn't have any money left over for taxes, but I didn't have any debt. So I could have taken it out against my house. But we won the golf tournament, and poor Dan never felt the pressure that I did.
So sometimes you play your best golf when you don't have money in your pocket.
That's exactly right. I can't afford to make this bet, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Going to do it anyway.
So I think it would be great to have an event. So the couple of ideas have been floated out, and that was one to have a team tournament, like there was back at the Jcpenney tournament, and another one was to have at a 2-course or multi-course setup where you'd have the guys playing one course and the girls the other, and then flop them over, or to have them both playing their own same course and have, say, the women finish on Saturday or the men on Sunday. I think there's lots of options that could work, and it would be of worthy interest, and I think worthy of somebody putting the money into it.
Yeah.
It would definitely be a cool event to be able to see how, Lexi Thompson plays in that event every year. I think.
Oh, right. The shark shootout. Yep.
Yeah. And it's always cool to see how a woman compares to the men. And the reality is, I mean, my personal opinion, I think it's fun to watch the PGA, but women, we are much more accurate, and you don't see so many crazy shots, which I guess some people like to watch, but it's nice to see a different side of the game comparing it to the men, which is always what you hear about. And for other viewers to be able to compare the two. Yeah,
I think, and from a technical standpoint, I think people can learn so much more from watching the LPGA players, because there's not the strength and speed to cover up poor mechanics. So if I was sitting in the LPGA Tour's television producer seat for a week, I'd do a lot more with side by side and how we can learn more. Even just the best amateurs in the world by watching the LPGA players, because their fundamentals are so darn good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit, because some of the people on the phone might know, we talked a little bit about your growing up in New York State, but
I'm going to have a sip of wine if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, me too.
Go, Val. Alexis, are you old enough for that?
Yes, I am.
This is a WMJ wine glass, by the way.
No, but of course it is.
So you moved, you kind of moved back home to New York State, a while back. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of giving back, in your community? I know you do a lot. So
I do. And I think if I could see it. I know Nancy Patton's on this call, and there's a Loxahatchee turtle back there that I know she would love to see. It's in the middle between my two Dinahs, and I think so much of that trophy, because when I became a member down there in Florida, one of the coolest things I thought was A, their logo, and B, for the major championships at the club, you got this turtle, and the darn thing weighs about 12 pounds. But I thought I'd never get a turtle because I'm a professional. I gave up that amateur status a long time ago. And one of the neatest things I ever had in my entire career was for the club to give me a turtle after I won my second major, and they threw me a surprise party. They had my trainer involved in it and everything. And I came back, they fooled me into not going to the trainer. They had put up this big banner, and I have a turtle, which again, because I was a professional, I never thought I would have. So anyway, I did leave Florida in 2000, at the end of 2008, and it was just to kind of get home. 4 seasons. I'm a skier. My family still runs a ski shop here in town that's in its 80th year of business this season, and I miss just being kind of not in a bubble, sort of in the middle of a town. So I came back, and I got myself right in the middle of it pretty quickly. And I think it is important to give back. And no matter where you are, in the smallest of ways, whether it's in a food pantry, some sort of civic project around town, getting involved in the schools, the arts. We have a very art heavy sort of town in Saratoga. We also have the oldest horse track in the country, so it was important to sort of embrace maybe some of the things that they were able to do. And I've been really lucky to A, have the time, B, have the means to be able to do something like that. But even the smallest things can go so far, or set other people in motion to maybe, oh, well, I can do a little bit of that, or it doesn't have to be a huge endeavor to make a big difference.
So, so do you still play golf?
Not I don't play good golf. Does that matter? No, I do not play a whole lot of golf. I'll go out and hit it around, but I think I'm so happy doing what I'm doing, and I've moved beyond that. If friends want me to take a look at their swing, or my husband's actually become a pretty good player. I wouldn't say he's my project, but he's gotten a lot better. Just the basics. And it's always about the basics, isn't it? I love being out on the golf course, but I don't enjoy hurting over it. A, B, I don't enjoy playing bad golf. So I've really started to just jump in full tilt with all the things I couldn't do when I was playing. So I couldn't be in the garden. I couldn't be, upside down in trees, throwing things up. All these other things I shouldn't have been skiing. I've really tried to do the other things that I had to give up to be the best in the world.
So if you do play, if you don't mind us asking, where do you play up in Saratoga? Do you have a favorite course up there?
We're members at a 9-hole course, the Saratoga Golf and Polo Club. It started as the Saratoga Golf Club. Mm-hmm. It was formed just before 1900. And it's been really neat because there's been a sort of a restoration, revisiting about Golden Age golf that this place had, Victorian golf, I guess more specifically. And Kai Golby came in and basically lived in our house for half a year, which was awesome. We didn't even get up out of our chairs when he walked in at the end of it. It's like, yeah, he's here again. But he did a really great job and turned a really, I would say it was kind of a swampy golf course into almost British run and gun, real sort of a fescue feel, and put the ball on the ground, and they took away of overhanging trees that were really sort of just heavy on the golf course, encumbering to shots. And if nothing else, during the winter, I love to go out there and snowshoe because it's just this massive, expansive place where you can actually see and feel the terrain, and it's just a great place.
Very cool.
It's an hour. It's a mile and a half from the golf course, so there's no excuse not to do something over there.
You could take the new puppy out there.
That new puppy is definitely going to have feet on the golf course. Yeah, definitely. JP and Furman, his predecessors, most certainly were golf dogs, and he will be the same.
Do you like to travel when you're not traveling, or is it a pain to go travel? You like staying at home?
A little of both.
Mm-hmm.
I do like going overseas on a purpose. So
Mm-hmm.
World War II history is my big thing, and to be able to go to London and then branch out, go down to the southeast coast of England, where so much happened to stage soldiers in World War II specifically. Well, World War I as well, but more vividly World War II. Because of the invasion of Normandy and all of that is just sort of my thing. So our dog, his name is Rupert because that's my favorite World War II artifact, was the Rupert. And the Rupert was the dummy little decoy that the Allies dropped over the northeast part of France to trick the Germans into thinking that that's where they were going to have what we now know as D-Day. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be in Normandy, not up at Calais. So this little dummy, and he was only, 18 to 24 inches high, was packed with explosives. And when they shot the lights up underneath, looking at all of these things coming, thinking that was an Allied invasion, and started shooting at them, they exploded. So they were little guys who played big. And our runt of the litter is going to be the little guy who plays big.
I like that. That's very cool.
So that was my World War II connection. But I miss not being able to go. So this was the time of the year that we would go over to either the southeast coast of England and go on these World War II searches, or into the north of France, and just get in a car and start driving, and the old-fashioned map, and really just go find places that were so important to the Allies winning World War II. I miss that.
Yeah. Traveling's, I mean, obviously you've made it work in the States, but traveling overseas obviously is going to be a little difficult. It'll be an adjustment over the next hopefully year.
We're coming back.
Yeah.
So we have, I think we caught like most of the questions from the floor, but a former
Val, you're really monitoring all of this?
yeah, I am. I multitask. I multitask. I have like 8 screens going. You just can't tell. So
and one of them watched the dog show from somewhere, right?
The dogs are in a peanut butter coma, so nice. I'm free to do whatever I want to do. So, but Bridget Lamb was originally maybe going to do the moderator with us, but she couldn't. But she wrote in, she wanted to know, she thinks, but what do you think about the game going forward with the lengths, these players are hitting the balls? She used a lot bigger term than I did because she's an attorney, but
she's also, she's like ridiculously smart.
Yeah, well, okay, I shouldn't call her an attorney, right? I should just use ridiculously smart. So
that wasn't downplaying you, Val. That was just saying like Bridget.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So so kind of went backtrack because we talked whatever, but kind of back to these guys just hit the ball so far. I mean, you alluded to a little bit with the LPGA Tour.
Yeah, I think we're getting ready to have to ask ourselves and maybe answer some tough questions. When you can't build golf courses big enough, and you can't stop guys from going to the gym and eating better and getting faster, then what are we doing? It's just, I think it really, Bryson's a disruptor. There's no question, but I'm not so sure it's not good for the game because it's going to make us have to answer those questions. How much is enough when you can't go to some of golf's high points, because even right now, so last time the Open Championship was contested at St. Andrews, it was over the course of 5 golf courses where they had to move tees back to. It was actually off the old course.
Yeah, to the new course, right?
Yeah, to the new course, and the new course, which is really old, by the way.
Yeah, the new
and the Jubilee, and I mean, how much is enough? And I'm a fan of bifurcation because I don't think we need to do anything to hamper the player who is just out there for the pure joy and not necessarily the high level competition. We can't make it harder for them. It's a hard game to begin with, but we can, I think, preserve some of the quality shot making and how that's rewarded. How that happens is way above my pay grade. I don't know whether it's the golf ball. I don't know if it's the combination of the golf ball and I don't know. But it seems to me that the biggest difference over the last 5 or 6 years has been the 3-woods. They are rocket ships. And in some places, you don't even need driver anymore.
Yeah.
Because they go so far and they go straight.
So I heard Mickelson a couple of years ago talk about, the classic swing versus now these guys have more of a mechanical swing and the stress that they're putting on their bodies.
Yeah.
But I mean, longevity of a career, I guess to a certain extent, look at Tiger, right? I mean, his knees, look at what Koepka with his knee and his hip.
Yep.
Eventually, like that's got to come back to bite them, but will it really matter, or will it ultimately hurt the game long term because you don't have these like characters, these long-term idols, or whatever? You go back to Tiger and the mistake, we didn't capitalize on it.
Right. I think there's that threat, and I think too that the look, if you're going to ask that much of your body, you're going to have to set aside that much time to recover. We know that. Are we looking at players who, because of their off-course training in the effort to get that much faster and take advantage of what we're allowing them to do with equipment, are we shortening their careers? Are we looking at, I don't think we're looking at NFL numbers or NBA numbers, but are we shortening it? And does that then hamper the senior golf? I don't know, but I think these are all questions they're out there as this has sort of evolved, or in some people's minds devolved.
I mean, you look at that Whoop that they've come out with.
Sure. Oh, no. Way too much information going out to the big brother.
I mean, that's for sure.
One, and I said, if I know when I've slept poorly, I don't need everybody else to know I've slept poorly.
It's just putting more thoughts in your head of why you've slept poorly. Exactly.
Correct.
But it shows the recovery, and it's just,
Yeah.
I know, I mean, I don't have one, but I know a lot of friends who have one, and the over-analysis on just their life and their body just from having it is unbelievable. I can't imagine what it's like for these PGA Tour players who have, your caddy, your swing coach, your mental coach, your trainer. I'm like, now you have this telling you what to do as well.
Right. It's this constant digital overload.
Right.
Playing a game that still demands, I think, a lot of artistry.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't play golf in a bubble. We might have been living in a bubble this whole summer.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Right.
We don't play golf in a bubble. And you don't wake up and feel exactly the same. We're not automatons. And I think part of the beauty of golf is that you have to react. You have to figure it out. You have to figure out how to get the ball in the hole faster than anybody else. That whoop strap, oh my gosh. To me, it was again, like giving so much information that's, once you give it away, you can't get it back.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's interesting though to see how I feel like Tiger was probably one of those people for the game who really changed the fitness aspect of it. And now you have Bryson, as you said, who's becoming this disruptor, and changing that aspect. And then you have someone like Dustin Johnson who, after hyping up Bryson for a full week, and you have Dustin Johnson come in, who's also just as long of a hitter, but managing, I would say, creativity. Would you say creativity is more important in the game of golf than just distance?
I think it's really important to have a clean paintbrush that you can figure things out and you can be creative with. And if you can harness the two of them with power, distance, and being able to be creative, that's when you get a guy like Dustin Johnson or Tiger Woods. Mm-hmm. If you can think big and narrow it down to the shot you have and still have that power ratio, that's where you set yourself apart in dominance. But I would take you back because you're a youngster, but I would say beyond Tiger, the first guy who really, I'm going to go back even further because Arnold Palmer used to run in the mornings before he played. And that was thought to be crazy. You don't waste any energy. But Greg Norman was really the first one to hammer it in the gym and turn the fitness corner. And then Tiger just took it to a whole new level. And I would say that the common denominator between the two of them was Butch Harmon telling Tiger what Greg Norman had done really well and how he, with his speed and his better technique, could do even better.
Yeah. So we have one more question from the floor. So how is social media affecting the mental game of the players? Do you think they like care, or, I mean, I know you're on Instagram. I know you're not on Twitter and Facebook.
No.
But I mean, there's obviously these guys all have these personas or whatever. I don't know. I don't know who really controls them, right? I don't even know if they control some of them.
Yeah, some of them they don't, Val. Some of them a manager does all of their social media, or they'll pick one and somebody else will do the others. But it can be, that can be a job in and of itself. And it's not all positive, as we all know. It can be extremely helpful from a branding standpoint. And that's what a lot of these guys are about. Hey, look, I'm about a brand. I get it. But if you let it drive you, it's going to come back and not be very pretty at some point. I think it can be very useful. It can be pretty cathartic, actually. I picked Instagram because I think it's more healthy. Then again, when I got on, I'm probably going to incriminate myself, but driving up to Winston-Salem to see my new puppy on Sunday night, I happened to get a little bit of traffic and looked down at Instagram, and I was like, whoa, that wasn't very nice. I mean, so people it can still be, even if it's a positive platform, people can still be pretty ugly. And I think you have to be prepared for that. You're a public figure, but I think it's like everything else. You have to manage it somewhat positively. But it's also become partly necessity. Jim Nance isn't on social media, but he's got guys that are monitoring what's going on out there. So, I mean, sort of
Right.
depends on your comfort level too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nancy Patton wants to know if Rupert's going to travel with you.
Rupert would probably travel with me. He'll be, if it's a drive trip, there's certainly potential. Yeah, it'd be cool to have a dog back on the road again. It's been a while. So it's been 6.5 years since we lost JP Jackpot, and her Sully and JP were buddies. So I know that the Pattons are thinking about getting a puppy again. So
Oh, there you go.
that's very cool.
Well, I think we've believe it or not, we've chatted for like an hour, and
Just like that.
And
any other like, I don't know. What did we miss?
No, we got a lot. It's unbelievable because a few people it's we've got a lot of people chime in, and we had them on our list. I was kind of a couple times, I'm like, Alexa's about to ask that question. So
great.
But so we really appreciate your time and jumping in. This is our first ever virtual annual meeting. You participated 6 years ago in person, and there was one last thing. I know you're writing a book, or you wrote a book. Is it going to print?
I am in the process of writing. I hammered out the re-edit of chapter 4. I was like watching the clock. I'm going, I gotta get off here.
So we appreciate your time. I know you got a lot going on.
This is great. No, I enjoyed it. It gave me a chance to sort of kind of put an exclamation point on the Masters too, and share some of my thoughts. That it was a great week. It was a kind of a one of a kind week. I hope we don't never have to do another Masters in November, but the work that went into it, the fact that they pulled it off and they pulled it off safely. I think it was I just remember talking to the players going around on Monday and Tuesday and saying, we shouldn't even probably be here because there's so much going on in the world, but they're doing it, and it's all good.
And the sandwiches were good, according to Dustin Johnson. The sandwiches were great.
Yeah, and he likes all of them. I
was actually watching his player on Tuesday, and I was hysterical when he made that answer. I was absolutely hysterical. And
it just, I think he's masterful the way he handles the media. You would think that he's sort of disengaged and it's not like I just sort of have to be here. I am supposed to do this. Right. He's great.
Yeah. He's great. Classic.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dottie. This has been awesome. It's been great talking to you, and it's opened our eyes to a whole different side of the golf world, which has been nice, to hear about different perspectives.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you too for the donation to the Saratoga Warhorse. It's a organization that's pretty dear to me up here because we're definitely a horse-centric community, but it's brought retired thoroughbreds together with veterans who've served and come back with some pretty tough hills to climb, including PTSD and alcoholism and everything that we hear about, but they're living it. And this organization has put them together with retired thoroughbreds, and it's doing remarkable, just wonderful things.
Well, they're lucky to have somebody like you championing their cause.
Oh, they're pretty great, and they did this sort of thing. They usually have a big gala toward the end of August, and they went virtual, and it was pretty special.
So I'm going to turn it back to Lorianne, I guess.
Sure. Thank you, Dottie. Really appreciate your stories and your perspective, your insights, and in regards to donating to your.
I see. Oh my God! Look at that!
I work with a dog group called Puppies Behind Bars, and it's
Oh my
a service
gosh!
dog for PTS soldiers, and that was a brood of 17. So I just
That
had
is
to.
magic.
Yes. So could you imagine 17 puppies at your house, though? That's
so great. What's your address?
that was about 3 months ago. So they're already in training, and
Oh, that is great.
they actually get trained by inmates in prison. So it's a great win-win. But Dottie, thank you so much for your time, your insights, and actually your personal perspectives. And it was a great, absolute dynamic session. I have been getting, thumbs up all across the board while you were talking. It was extremely insightful. So thank you very much. And Valerie and Alexis, thank you guys for putting this panel together. And of course, next time I see Kiki and Ozzy, I will give them a bone, and we'll send something for Whooper too.
Thank you very much. He's only 5 pounds, so make it small.
I was going to say he gets the mini size.
Yeah. That's right.
Terrific. Well, I want to, in closing, before I close, I want to thank your time as well as everybody else's for their passion and their involvement with the WMGA. We could not be as successful as we are without the help of our many volunteers and our board members, our Met reps, our series and team captains, course raters, and our volunteers. This year has been very unique and challenging, and we appreciate everybody's dedication to the game and this organization. For 121 years, the WMGA has made it through adversity, and our story will continue. We sincerely wish all of you a healthy and safe Thanksgiving and a holiday season, and all the best as we look forward to 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our annual meeting. Thank you all for attending. Dottie, thank you for your time. The session's recorded, and it will be uploaded to our WMGA communications channel on YouTube. Thank you and good night.